What's up, bro? It's your boy, Mike Muse. Welcome to the Conversation, the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. I've been a fan of hers for so long. Not much of an introduction is needed. Let's just get to it. That dynamic, the incredible Layla Hathaway. What's up, friend?
Hi, how are you?
Good. So I was looking at your Instagram story, and today is your father's birthday.
Absolutely. October 1st.
What is the irony of that, ladies and gentlemen? We have tried to schedule this interview for a while, and dates got shifted around, and today is the day that we landed on. And I was checking out the Instagram. I was like, how perfect is it that today is your father's birthday? What is this day like for you in this moment, in particular with new music that you have out?
It's different every year. I have a few friends who actually also have this birthday. I was invited to sing for Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday celebration, which is also today.
Wow.
So today is a nice day. When I finish with you, I'm gonna go chill out and get off my social media for a time
Yeah.
and just chill out.
Just chill out. I mean, cheers to celebrating singing for President Carter on the 100th birthday.
Thank
That's a
you.
special and a treat unto itself. And I like the idea of removing yourself from social media. Is that for mental health kind of purposes and moments?
Yeah, a lot of that is a mental health thing. A lot of it is, there are so many people that are such voracious kind of Donny Hathaway fans. Sometimes I have to shut that down and just be a human being and get off of social media.
If I can be honest with you, I didn't anticipate this direction of this conversation at all. I just happened just to look at the Instagram and I saw it. I felt the need to acknowledge that. But sometimes we don't oftentimes look at those children of icons. Um,
Yeah,
Oftentimes we look at them if they choose to go into the career or the profession or the sector of their loved one. We look at
yeah,
it as like this, the custodian of legacy with their own twist and spin on it. But we're
mhm,
always looking at it from like a custodian of legacy, but never from the actual human connection. And in this case,
yeah.
daughter, father. I gotta be honest with you, this is the first time I've actually even felt that for myself with you and your father.
You know, what's interesting is I think a lot of times in the past, people have thought that maybe I was reticent to talk about him or I didn't want to perform the material or and none of this has ever been true. It's always been, I feel like he is such a legend and he's such this archetype and icon that a lot of people come at me at times like like what you're saying, like I'm just a custodian of the legacy,
Yeah.
that they forget that I'm his actual child, you know. And
You
so
forget that.
you
You
forget.
you do forget that. I gotta be honest with you. You forget that part.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
one, I just want to say thank you for bringing that into the conversation. Thank you for being open and talk about it. Like I said before, I didn't even plan to go this far with it. I kind of just wanted to
yeah.
acknowledge your father and move on. I'm also too a big believer in although individuals are custodians of the legacy, like they have their own agency. And so I think it's important that you talk about that artistry as well. But I just when you enter the term human earlier in our conversation and just started connecting the dots that you forget that this day is a daughter moment,
Yeah,
right?
it really is for his family. And there are so many people that want to be his family and want to be super fans and are those things. And sometimes it's a lot. You know, Facebook can get to be like slightly circusy with the happy birthdays to Johnny Hathaway. So some of them are funny. Some people are dressed like him on today. You know, it's a full hero worship. Some people claim to be his children, some people claim to be his siblings. I mean, it's all over the place. I meet people of all types, and so on a day like today, some years I just shut it down so I can be peaceful.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being vulnerable
Yeah.
in that moment. I think we oftentimes we forget the human nature of children of legacies. But
Yeah.
I will want to say I've always looked at you, although you have that last name of Hathaway, as someone who is so dynamic in your own regard. I have been able to separate the idea of that. And I think it's because your voice, Layla, is so powerful. Like you had a type of album, Vanta Black, that I love to say isn't skippable, right? Like you can just go from beginning to
That
end.
is awesome.
And I think for me with this album, what I'm enjoying the most about it is the music matches the vocal stylings.
Thank
And
you.
I think that's hard to do, especially with people like you who have such a powerful voice. There's a richness to your voice, there's a texture to your voice. And I think sometimes finding the right music can be complicated for dynamic singers like you. And I think you nailed it with this album.
Thank you so much. I think the thing for me is finding a record that's written from the inside out. And so someone said that they felt like the record felt like that. And so for me, that is the thing. And I love so many different types of things. And so to be able to combine them all on one project was just awesome.
You can tell that, but you can also too tell that it's a very complete project, right? It isn't like this scattered thoughts and also not,
Hodgepodge. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a hodgepodge of stylings, right? But like, how did that curatorial process work? Because that could go wrong. I was really because I went to I'm based in New York City, and over the weekend I went to Global Citizens, and Post Malone was the headliner. And I wouldn't say I'm a huge Post Malone fan. I enjoy Post Malone's music. I'm not an expert in his catalog, but I know
Right.
he's had different movements, and there was something about the way he was able to weave his EDM music, his hip hop music, his country western music. The
Um,
musical director, I don't know who that person was, but it flowed together and it wasn't a hodgepodge. Like you almost
yeah.
couldn't tell the genres, right? And
Yeah.
so I think for me, I'm not comparing obviously to Post Malone, but the way that this album is so seamless, right?
Um,
Because you have different types of individuals who are featured on here who come from
right.
different genres.
I grew up with records that were like, when Shaka would make a record, it may have a Rick James duet on it. It may have a Beatles cover. There was a certain point in history where the artist was the thread of the project. And so I think in that case, when the artist is strong and the thread is woven through the project, it doesn't really matter what the genres are or what the drums are doing or if it's four on the floor or if it's 6/8 ballads. You can combine all of those things. It just has to be true. All of it has to be the truth.
As Linda Martell says, genre is a funny construct, right? Genres are funny.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and I couldn't agree to that more because I believe if you're a lover of music, like music should have no bounds, right? I'm always amazed at how
Absolutely.
people get so stuck on like, well, I don't like listening to that, or I don't like listening to this. I'm like, but
Yeah,
music is such a an energy transference, right? Like,
absolutely.
how can you
You
relegate
could,
it?
you could really take the same song and put different drums on it and make it any genre. You know what I mean? You can take a great song and sing it as a ballad, as an up tempo, four on the floor. You can make it disco. You can make it a polka. You can make it a spoken word. You can do really whatever you want with it.
Yeah. What vibe were you in when you were thinking about this album? Because when I get this, I'm from originally from Michigan, so I get like two step. I get like upbeat, I get happy, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm just wondering what vibe and what mood are you in? What's your energy space as you were creating this album?
We started working on the record in 2020, not realizing that we were working on a record. And so when the quarantine happened, I was convinced that it would last maybe 3 weeks. Maybe I'd have 3 weeks of downtime, which for me sounded amazing because I've been working basically since 1990 every season.
Wow.
And so I didn't even realize, I don't think I realized I was working on a complete body of work. I was just really being creative. I was home, I was watching the news. Um, I was taking in all of the things that were happening in the culture, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, January 6th. I was just watching a lot of news and really reflecting sort of what I was seeing in a way that was not so literal, but based in idea and thought, really trying to use art as a means of resistance. And so the record in the last, I'd say like a year before I got finished, I realized, okay, I have a body of work now. And this feels like a project. It was not made to be like that in the beginning.
Wow.
I was just being creative and working with people on music.
Is that why it's kind of audience, Layla sees me smiling, but when you go back and watch it on YouTube, you see me smiling. Is that why Band to Black is the title of the album? Because for me, Band
Absolutely.
to Black leans so much into identity and agency.
Absolutely. And I definitely felt like I loved the way that word sounded and felt. But even more than that, I thought about feeling like the blackest that I've ever felt, which is right now at this inflection point in history. And it's an odd thing to declare, but it just dawned on me one day. Like when I started really keying into what was happening in a quiet way, when there was no traffic, when there was no smog in the air, when people were not outside, when I didn't have places to go or people to see, I started really keying into that. And that's kind of what that song is about. It was how to make a protest song, but like a bop,
Yeah.
how to say, I want all my things back for all of my people.
Mhm. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I gotta be honest with you too as well. I mean, you've been vulnerable, I've been vulnerable. Like I have obviously as a black man leaned into my black identity, but I never leaned so much into my black agency as a black man until the pandemic, right? Because
Yeah.
you're just so busy moving about the cabin, going about your day.
Right.
We all as black people experience microaggressions. I think James Baldwin has this great line lately where he says, I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but in context, to be conscious in a Negro is always in a state of rage. And my
Be in a
younger
state of
self,
rage every day.
right?
Yes.
I didn't understand it until I got older. And then during the
Same.
pandemic, you start thinking about, oh my God, there is constant states of microaggression, right? But you kind of just go with it.
Yeah.
I think all of that just made me stop and realize, like, whoa, okay, wait. Let me lean in a little bit. Let me understand more, even myself, right? Like
Absolutely.
relationship.
Absolutely.
How do I communicate my agency to the world, right? How do I show up into this
Yeah.
world?
It's amazing if you really start to think back even to the times in your life that were like good times
Mhm.
and start really reflecting on what was happening during those good times.
Yeah,
It's real deep.
it
The
is.
sort of um, the sort of conscious hypnosis that happens, over the whole culture, and it's happening now again. You know what I mean? It's been a fascinating last few years for me with my eyes open.
Even even when you think about like things of your childhood, things of your past, right? These things I saw as what now I call traditions and cultures. I didn't see as traditions and cultures. I just saw this what you did on the weekends. This is kind of
Right.
what you did. Like, we've always had this thing. There was no collective culture as Black Americans from the diaspora. I
Yeah.
remember looking at individuals who celebrated Juneteenth or Kwanzaa, not judgy, but I always felt like it's a performative, right?
Right. What is this? We didn't find it. What is this? No one, I didn't know about this. What's that?
Yeah, until you start going through what we went through as collective, and then
Yeah.
I guess you had time to lean in and to learn, right?
Yeah.
And then I started learning about Juneteenth. I was like, oh my God. I think the rest of the world did, which is why it's a freaking federal holiday now because we
Absolutely.
all had to go through that learning curve.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought that into that space. Because I felt the exact same way, like
Yeah.
of having to learn about it. What about mood for you? What was some of the
Oh,
inspirations?
wow.
Because I go to mood when I start your album, I go to mood for you first,
Really? Mood for You is
and then I go back and push,
and
and
then
then
back to the top.
yeah, just because
Mood
for
for
me, I'm
You.
a dance. It's like a good two-step kind of
It
bop.
is absolutely like a steppers, roller skating
Yeah.
type of song. That's a Warren Campbell original. We started working with Warren Campbell and Juan Winans and Eric Dawkins and we wrote that song. And it's such a nice, like you said, it's that two-step, it's that barbecue, it's that cruise.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that record and it's part of my live show now and people really enjoy it. But I could see why you'd start with that. I could
Oh
see why.
yeah. I start with it. I may play it a couple of times and then I allow it to release me and then I push play and then I go back and listen all the way through. Now, sometimes I think I can be too deep, Layla, right? I think I can be too dumb deep, right? And so for me, returning, I didn't know if what was your interpretation of returning? Because for me, now that we're talking about agency identity, I kind of went there as well with returning, and so but I also too went with love. So I was like, this could go so many different ways,
I
and
mean, and it's meant to. I mean, really,
I wasn't crazy. Okay,
No,
okay,
it's
okay.
and really good music to me allows you to have the agency to interpret it and reinterpret it like
Mhm.
poetry. I wrote it with a guy named Juana Riza. We talked about the music that we love, that we listened to as kids. We talked about Michael Franks. We talked about the Passion Fruit album. We talked about how this music was so introspective, and almost meditative. And I wanted to write something like that. So that is absolutely what that is.
I love it. Layla, you have made my day. I just
Yes.
want
And there really are no wrong answers. You know what I mean? There are some, but everybody, you meet on the road wherever people are. And that is the point for me of art.
I was about to say that when you can make beautiful art, you can make art that is meant to be interpreted based upon your lived experience, right? Like I don't like art that's too nail on the head. I mean, I can appreciate that too as well, but I do like things that has a little bit of wiggle room
Yeah.
for interpretation. Layla Hathaway, this has been such a true treat. I don't want to hold you. I want you to be able to enjoy your day on the way that
Thank you so much.
on your terms, and how you see fit to enjoy it and to enjoy the mental break that you are so
Thank you.
wonderfully deserving.
I brought my dad into the session today. Can you see my t-shirt?
Yo, I can see it. Yeah, that's so special. I want to let
Yeah.
you go and enjoy your day as a daughter.
Thank
I
you so
thank
much.
you for down audience. I mean, we were rescheduling this, all the things, and so personally, just thank you for acknowledging the commitment. And when if there's a day for an exception, it would have been the day. And I just very appreciate you, Layla, for doing that and being
Absolutely.
just a
Glad to be.
great human, as you say.
Thank you.
That's just what happens to have an incredible voice and artistry. And so I would love to get you into his XM in the studio. I would love to play back
Absolutely.
music,
I'm
do a
upset you're in New York and you weren't able to make it to the show. We were just at town hall.
I know life. I'm so bummed.
Killer too. It was so
I
good.
know, but I'm gonna see you on the road. I'm gonna come
Absolutely.
where I get about the cabin freely often, but I would love to have you in studio in New York and let's do a listening session in the whole nine and really rock out. Layla
Thank you.
Hathaway, thank you so much. Please
Thank you.
take a beat and enjoy your day.
Absolutely. You be well.
Okay, bye, Layla.
Okay.